set up, you guys. I am going to go to the restroom and adjust my daggone hair. Hi, guys. Hi. Okay, I'll be right back. I'm just going to let some people jump on. I'm going to go to the restroom and adjust my head rack because I haven't done my hair in like 2 days. So I will be right back. Let's let some people jump on with us. Okay. All right, now I just need to slip on some lip gloss. Hello, darlings. Okay, I'm right here, but I cannot find my lip gloss, and it's truly disturbing me. So I'm going to have to use my trusty Vaseline. Okay. All right, guys, we are waiting for a couple of more people to join us. Let me see what came on yesterday. The Real Housewives of Potomac. What else come? Married to Medicine. Because I'm currently downloading the shows for the website as well. Make sure you go join me. TOXOT, TOXOTEA.com. There are so many things. I'm going to be uploading Love and Listings too really soon. I heard it was good and everybody keeps asking me about it. So I want to download it for you guys and see how that goes. I thought I was going to get this hair rag straight this time. Daggone it. It didn't do what I wanted it to do, but that's okay. All right, guys, remember yesterday when we left off, there was a lot going on in this book. She was telling us about how she had gotten with R. Kelly and how he was one of the best experiences of her life. Honey, she was telling us how that thing was getting put down on her, honey, okay? And she was happy about it. Hey, Stream Diva, on your way to work. Thank you so much for joining in. It looks like we have less people that are going to be joining in than yesterday, but I can't be worried about that. Okay. I have to worry about the task at hand, which is getting y'all this book read. Okay. Getting this book together. Okay. I cannot be worried about that. I'm just trying to take a few bites to eat while I'm preparing. Because reading makes me hungry. Like really hungry. Okay. So we're already 31% through this book, y'all. We pretty much in this thing like a chicken wing. I believe we're at like chapter 6. And it's going down in the town. Yesterday, she was talking about how she was moist and hot for R. Kelly. She was talking about how she could tell that he had had it going on through his jeans. I mean, it was just wild last night. Okay. So we're on chapter 6, you guys. And mind you, she was telling us all kinds of the tea about her and how she was getting it put down on her, even though she had a preacher boyfriend. Okay. Ooh, how ghetto. Hey, Shantina. Okay, let's get into it. Welcome to the stripper world. That is what the next chapter is called. I started hanging out with my girlfriend, Kat Moore. Remember, her girlfriend, Kat, was the one who wanted to get with R. Kelly, but R. Kelly didn't want to get with Kat. He wanted to get with her. Over at the Rock and Roll McDonald's. I see somebody who just sent something to my phone. Thank you for that. You know who you are. So I appreciate it. Welcome to the stripper world. I started to hang out with my girlfriend, Kat Moore, the same girl I beat up in school and through whom I met R. Kelly. She was a dancer for the female strippers called the Kitty Cats. The club we hung out at had hoochie mamas, drug dealers, and pimps. Out in public, Kat would dress no different than if she was doing a show on stage. I'm not a jealous person, nor am I a hater, so I like how she dressed. It was interesting and fun to look at. We know looks could be deceiving, but with Kat, there was no deception on her part. What you saw, you did get. I have always found strippers to be sexy. You might hear some people say that strippers have low self-esteem. Call it what you want to, but I say the smart ones get paid. I got caught up in hanging out with Kat in the stripper world. I would go and watch her shows from time to time. Girls got down on the floor and guys will lick their kitties. Now, child, let me tell you something. I didn't know that was going down at the strip club, y'all. I did not know that kitty cats was getting licked and all that until, guess what? Until I watched a video from Jocelyn Hernandez where she was in the strip club and she was sitting on this man's back with her bare crotch, okay, riding him like he was some type of dog or donkey or something. And the next thing you know, once he turned her butt over, honey, he was going at it. I'm talking about in it and at it. I said to myself, what the hell? I did not know that they was in a strip club doing that. My naive mind thought that they was just in a strip club dancing. That ain't what it is, okay? It's a lot more than that to it. Anyway, Kat was good at stripping, and she made good money. She did not play that little money stuff. In fact, little money didn't fit her vocabulary, so she said. That weekend, she invited me to a private party where she was hired to dance for some white guys. Kat had me believing she made good money. She had already been dancing for a few years, so I told her I wouldn't mind trying it one day. Another party came up the following weekend. I asked her if she ever had to perform sexual favors at these parties. She claimed that the guys would never have sex with her at these parties or even touch her. But I clearly remember a man licking her kitty when she sat on top of his face one night while she was busting it wide open. So that was a lie, number one, out of her mouth. Bottom line is, she wanted to be a high-priced stripper. I did like her a lot and thought she had a lot of sophistication. The only tacky thing on her was her hair weave. I thought everything else was in place. I mean, I have bad days too with hair weave, but this was the worst I can remember from someone I knew personally. One day she called to ask me if I would go over to some guy's house with her. Supposedly she'd met this guy at that same tacky strip club we were dancing at. He was a so-called film producer or director wanting to film a nude scene with two girls who had to pretend to be lesbians. She claimed he was going to pay each person $5,000. Now, this is where I learned my lesson. He didn't tell me he would give us $5,000 each. He had his talk with Kat, who said not to worry about it because she trusted this guy. I thought it was cool because she talked a good game as if she was really the money girl. Boy, was I wrong. Once we made it to this guy's place, the scenario did not feel right. He introduced himself as Will. He tried to sound like a real honest dude. It was my first time doing something like this, so I didn't know what to expect. Will had a camera sitting on a dolly and lights were set up as if he really knew what he was doing, but he had no TV monitor. That bothered me. What bothered me was he lived in a cheap apartment. Now I look back at the apartment. Now, as I look back at that part of my life, I have to remind myself that I never rode the short yellow bus to school, okay? So it had to be my youth that would explain why I was so dumb to believe a stranger would pay us to pretend to be lesbians and get half naked for a camera. What's up, Ty? I'm so glad wisdom has been good to me. Otherwise, I would still be a dummy today. I guess that's all part of being young and growing up. Not much gets past me these days. Once the clothes came off and the little camera started rolling, it was my turn to pretend I was licking Kat's kitty. I smelled something foul. It smelled like a bucket of crab legs down there. I almost threw up. I tried holding my breath, but I could only do that for so long. In my mind, this was not happening at all. I couldn't go on pretending this act of having my face that close to the odor in her kitty was okay. However, that was simple compared to what happened next. This guy put you in the mind of JJ from the TV series Good Time. I saw him climbing his tall, skinny behind up on bed to position his camera. At that point, I used my hair to cover my face because there were already a lack of trust. And I didn't know this dude. Next, he started to tongue kiss Kat. I moved over and got out the bed. I pretended to go get something to drink and packed up my clothes. As I was leaving the room, I saw him moving down towards Kat's kitty, using his mouth. How gross of him not to be bothered by that foul odor. I left out the room and changed into my clothes. By the time I made it back in the bedroom, Will was having unprotected sex with Kat while the camera was still rolling. No one had told me that having real sex was part of this plan. He did have a monster, though. Kat gave me the eye as she made these crazy sex noises, pretending that the sex was good. I was a little pissed because she was always the first one to say that she never had sex with tricks without protection. The first thing I thought about was this guy probably does this to a lot of girls. No matter what this older guy told her, he hadn't paid us 1 red cent yet, and she let him do all of that to her after meeting him at that nasty club. What was she thinking? I thought she was much smarter than that with all the crap she talked. Later, I found out that he had told her he would give her extra money for having sex with him on camera. She seemed a little disturbed after he finished screwing her. By that time, I had already gotten dressed. She was probably embarrassed and wondering what my thoughts were. What made it even worse, he didn't pay us as he promised. Instead, he gave us 2 personal checks and said to wait 3 days before cashing it. If looks could kill, he would have been a dead. After he said to wait before we cashed the checks, Kat's face turned red and her whole expression changed. I guess he thought we were dummies to believe he would have that money after we left his cheesy ass apartment. Kat was furious, but she smiled as if everything was all good. The whole day she used every cursed name she could find for this guy who pranked us. In the first place, we shouldn't have got half of that. In the first place, we should have got half of that money up front. It didn't bother me too much knowing we had been pranked, but I can't understand why Kat was so upset. Hell, if I had unprotected sex with the guy, I would have been pissed at myself too. So I could understand why Kat was so upset. After a while, I began to think it was funny. She thought she was the queen of taking tricks money, but he swindled us. Kat looked real crazy to only dance for a white guy at private parties, but then let this black guy screw her out of $5,000. I say there's a bigger city slicker for every slicker. I sure learned my lesson because we never got paid, even after all the threats Kat made to this man. After all the visits we paid him, he just stopped answering his phone and the door after so long. Then the last time we went to his house, he threatened to call the police if we showed up again at his door. One thing I told her is I would have gotten paid first before I did anything. From then on, whenever Kat arranged something for us that involved money, I had no problem with it. She made sure the money was given to us first, and the money was always good. So I officially caught up and introduced myself to the world of sex and money. That's called prostitution, guys. Okay, she just don't want to say that. Kat taught me that sex sells. R. Kelly taught me to treat sex as if it was a good product, good or bad. It was my life. It didn't stop there. I enjoyed getting money that was easy to come by. In my mind, I was like, you give me what I want, and you can enjoy all you want with me. I was young and had a lot to offer. Still, I had a lot of growing up to do. I had to be tough with the guys and carry that didn't give a damn attitude instead of being a bitch. I made a guy into the bitch first. If I heard a guy saying something like, I fucked that bitch, and it was directed towards me, I didn't care because, believe me, if they had been with me, it cost them some pretty good change. When I was young, I was into dating street guys like drug dealers and hustlers. They taught me the streets and then how to have a jump off and not care what anyone says. One day I was at the hotel with one of my homeboys hanging out, having fun. Hold on, pause. Let me make sure this door is closed. No, it's not. Okay, hold on. What's up, boy? Come on. Listen to your earphones because my book is inappropriate. My legs. I'm sorry your legs hurt, son. My light just walked into the room. You can't listen to this book, Dill.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't. So, boy, go sit down and put your earphones on.
Go watch my hand.
Now I gotta wait for my son to put his earphones on.
They're on.
But you can hear me. That's the problem. Put them on, turn them up, child. He's washing his hands. He just finished playing basketball. I said, hi, Sonny Tox. This is the real TOXSDIAMOND. He is the person who came up with the name.
I don't know what I want to eat.
Just some summer sausage and chips. Tastes good to me. Earphones. Hurry up, deal. I'm in the middle of the read. We're just waiting for the little one. Y'all know I can't get down like this. So, she said she was at a hotel with one of her homeboys hanging out. Now, y'all got to imagine this. You got to put that into your imagination tank, okay? And imagine it with us. You at the hotel, you hanging out, you having fun. Two of his friends came through with weed and drinks. One of his friends named Angel made it known that she was a dancer at a very exclusive strip club with a white clientele where the money was good and easy to make. Thank you, Ty. A few days later, I went to check out the club. This place was a hole-in-the-wall joint with plenty of money rolling through. The reason only white men came through was because the owner was a racist Italian who hated black men. There was a lot going on in that club, which was more like a strip club in the front with sex rooms in the back along the VIP area. Hell, it damn near was like a cat house. My first day working wasn't bad. The girls helped me out with what to do, what not to do, and who not to trust. They didn't have to tell me because I didn't trust any of them. I was only there for one reason, to get my money. The old Italian owner looked like the man from the movie Sugar Hill, and his name was Gus too. All I knew was his old Italian tail was screwing one of those girls there who walked around as if she was Mrs. It, and she was not. I called her Miss Sloppy because that described her body best. The money was good at this club. I tried to take every dime and dollar those white boys came through with. Some were married, and I tried to take every dime they had too. I'm sure those wives had no idea where their husbands were. A few days later, I called up Kat and told her about the place. I wanted to turn her on to some club money that had white clients instead of the hole-in-the-wall place. I never understood how someone could dance in a hole-in-the-wall place but then tell everybody they only dance for white men on the outside of the club. Why waste your time? Keep it consistent, Kat. Kat claimed she was making about $2,000 a week doing private parties. If that was true, she wouldn't have been so glad to get to the club I was at. She came to the club and Gus hired her on the spot as well. It reminded me of the scene in the Players Club when Ebony was hired on the spot. She came in telling the girls we were cousins. The girls would call us men because we both had banging bodies. They were all jealous because we took their clients from them. But you cannot blame the dancer. Men wanted to pay for what's hot, and we happened to be hotter than every girl in that club. After 2 months, I was tired of working at the club. I didn't want to get caught up into dancing and doing nothing else, so I quit. But Kat continued to work there. Making thousands for me and millions for others wasn't my cup of tea. I thought it was time for me to step it up a few notches. The goal I had set for myself was to be an actress and to be surrounded by entertainers in the music and film arts. Not to be in the stripper world or dealing with dumb girls who took their money home to their pimps. All right, guys, we are on chapter 7. It's called Beauty Shop Part 2 Tour. Over at Lily's talent agency, I got myself a casting agent so I could go out and audition as a professional actress. It just so happened that I was listening to the radio one day and heard an announcement that Shelly Garrett was coming to town to hold auditions for his next tour. In March, I went to Shelly Garrett's casting in Chicago for his play called Beauty Shop Part 2. I told Kat about the audition, and she met me at the McCormick Place to audition. A lot of people were there in line to audition for different roles. When it was our turn, we went into the camera room together. Already, we knew the routine that we were going to do. Shelly and his crew sat at the opposite end of the table while the guy came in and filmed us. After the audition, Shelly gave us a big smile and said, "Very well." We left them with all of our contact numbers, and it felt good to audition. It was the first time I had gone to such a big audition for a major theater play. Later, I was given a role in an independent film called Scandals, which is how I met Mel Jackson, the guy who got his stardom playing Samuel in the movie Soul Food. He is so cute. Aww. He was Big Manny, the boyfriend of my character in the film Scandals. Mel was just a friend and a nice guy. At the time, he stayed from house to house and didn't have a car, so I would pick him up sometimes and drop him off after filming. Now, ain't that funny how you can be an actor or actress, and because the money is so hit and miss, and because the industry is so hit and miss, this guy was in the movie Soul Food, obviously played a big role in that movie, and wasn't able to keep a place or a car. Ain't that some shit? Kat and I were still hanging out together. I was trying to get him to date Kat at the time because she liked light-skinned pretty boys, while I liked dark-skinned big-lip boys. Although he looked good, Kat was never interested. She was all about men with money, and he didn't have any to offer at the time. He was just a struggling actor who was too cute and had the potential to be a little too soft for my taste. I knew he had a crush on me because he said so. His two roommates, Jarquo and Patrick, were part of the cast as well. Good-looking guys, all brighter than the sun. Jarquo was the only one who didn't seem to have a little sweetness in his pants in him. Patrick later played a role in the HBO series 6 Feet Under. We all know that series was about queers. There's a rumor going around that Patrick was sleeping with the Ladies of Inglewood director Kim. That was after he landed his role as T-Bone in the film. The rumor we found to be true because while he was contracted as a cast member on the soap opera All My Children in New York, Kim had him served with paternity papers on the set. I kept in contact with him for a short while, and although I knew about him and Kim's sexual quarrel, I never mentioned it until he told me. He said it was no rumor, that it was true. He was her jump off because Kim was married at the time. During this time of filming those two independent films, I hadn't heard anything back from Shelly Garrett. July rolled around, and I finally got a call from Shelly Garrett himself. He hired me to be a part of the cast of Beauty Shop Part 2. I had to pay my own way to California and get there in 2 days. Kat was casted in the play as well, so I booked our plane tickets at the same time. When we arrived at the airport, Xavier and Shelly's bodyguard were waiting outside of the airport for us. About 5 of us had flown in from Chicago for this production. The first stop was Shelly's house near Diamond Bar, California. We took the role as dancers along with 3 other girls from Chicago. The only girl he cast from Chicago as a main character was Kendra Meeks, now known as Kendra Davis, wife of Antonio Davis, who played in the NBA with the Indiana Pacers. Kendra also appeared on The Real Housewives of Atlanta as Kim's interior designer. She's also the owner of that fabulous home in Roswell, Georgia. Kendra played the role of Mercedes. She was only 18 at the time, but it seemed like she was mature. We were the 2 youngest cast members besides Shelly's daughter, who also had a role on the show. Later that night, the cast checked into the hotel not far from Shelly's house. Rehearsal began the next day at Shelly's house, where everyone introduced themselves and told what role they should be playing. Shelly was rumored to be the touchy type with the ladies on the cast. When I was alone with him to collect my weekly wage, I told him I wasn't there for anything other than to do my job. Of course, he took offense because after that day, he had little to do with me. That's why it isn't good to go through with it. That's why it isn't good to go with rumors about a person before you get to know them yourself. After 2 long, sweaty weeks of rehearsal, it was time to head to San Diego, California for our first big show. Beauty Shop Part 2 was sold out every single night, and we were all excited to hear that. This was my official entry into the entertainment world. Oh, Lord, it's about to get ugly because, she in it, y'all. She in it now. Everything I had learned from R. Kelly and my street knowledge, I had to remember to carry with me always. Kat and I were roommates in San Diego, and we always talked about sticking together. But that was a lie for the second time with her. She was all for herself. She wanted to make sure I didn't get Shelly Garrett's attention because she wanted him. Things really changed between us by the time we started touring. Throughout the journey from San Diego, California to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, she stayed on Shelly's coach team with him, and there was only one bed on that coach. I can't say what went on while she spent the time with his coach, but we all knew the deal. After a few years, I finally learned she was a jealous person and thought she was more attractive than she was. That she should be one of the guys, that she should be the one guys flock to instead of me. But it was totally the opposite. Clearly, you can see that her looks are not the best assets. She did have a nice body, but that was all she had to offer. By the time we made it to Wisconsin, Shelly put her ass off of his coach. She looked so dumb. What she didn't realize was I wasn't attracted to him at all. He was a nice looking older man, but he wasn't my type. He reminded me of my father at the time. All I could think about was you was stupid with the porno guy, and now you just stupid with Shelly. By the time we arrived in the next city, I requested a different roommate and wanted nothing else to do with her nasty ass. I saw her for the trick she was at the time and realized we could never be real friends. She was never a true friend, and I should have known that back in Chicago from the first time she acted up because R. Kelly wanted me and not her. She was no friend. She always wanted to eat the tail end of the lobster and give me the legs with little to no meat on it. And I had to solve that problem by getting another roommate. My roommate was immediately changed, and she and I never spoke to each other the rest of the tour. So during the course of the tour, Shelly and Kendra Davis started dating after he threw Kat in the trash and canned her. Shelly was raw. I have to give it to him for being a mad player back then. It seemed as if he had more whores than Don Juan. I remember he had all types of pretty women meeting him in different states. He was doing it just like the NBA players with a different chick in every city. Hold on, Shantina. Let me see if I can get a picture of her on my other phone. Jara Everett. So here she is right here. There was an error. Why is there an error? Hold on. Here's how the front of the book looks. It won't pull up my, what is wrong with this phone? Okay, here we go. Let me see if you guys, I'm going to show you in a minute live me. Give me 1 second. There she is. It's not like she got a big fake booty. I mean, I see a little bulge in here. It's not like I don't know. What y'all think? Live me. Is she the bomb? No. The bomb? No. Blow it up, blow it down. What do we think? Is she bomb enough to be talking like this or no? What are we thinking? Okay, let me know. Is she cute enough to be saying what she's saying? Okay. All right. Thank you, Sylvie. Hi, Fat Sam, Fit Sammy. She cute? Okay. So he was doing it like an NBA player with different chicks in every city. He even had his baby mama on tour with us as head of wardrobe. He kept his women close, and if they kept their mouth shut about the next one, he would keep them around even longer. If they troubled him about another woman, they would get the boot. You give her a 5, You give her a 7? Okay. Maybe a 7? Okay. Kendra knew the ropes. She knew her position and would always refer to Shelly as daddy. Uh-oh, we got another R. Kelly. Maybe Shelly is Kelly. Maybe she don't want to tell that part. Okay, anyway. There were times where Miss Kenya did get jealous and throw a dramatic fit. All the same time, I liked the fire in her. We all knew when Kendra and Shelly got into it because he would put her off his coach for the next ride and put her on his cast coach. Kendra and I did become friends. She was sweet, but given the chance, she would cut your throat also. I liked her though. Even though she would snitch on the cast and tell Shelly a lot of things that went on, I knew what she was all about. So her ways never bothered me. Smart Mouth Kendra was the name that the cast had for her. Shelly was a pro at what he did with women. Brother had good game now. The violence in their relationship became noticeable when Shelly met Melissa Morgan and started dating her. The entire cast was shocked when we saw him with Melissa because Shelly would only date light-skinned girls out in public, and she was darker than most of his other women. On one day, Shelly and Kendra got into a heated argument backstage, and she did not go out on stage. That left Shelly with forcing Kendra's understudy on stage with little notice. Big Mike, a.k.a. Michael Clark Duncan, was part of the cast as Shelly's bodyguard and sometimes guarded the cast. Shelly had Big Mike guard Kendra, too, to make sure she didn't ruin his show that night. Kendra was so fiery at the time, if you pissed her off, there was no telling what she would do. Sort of like that's what she was all about. Still, she was cool. She just had a big mouth and never bothered anybody unless they looked her way, the wrong way. I thought she was hilarious most of the time. That was an awful night to remember. The understudy screwed up so bad, the cast had to lead her in with her lines. I called that night of the show a circus night because it really did feel like that. During the intermission, she cried the whole time and told everybody that Shelly had jumped on her because she no longer wanted to be with him because he was an old, violent man. Well, this man was the same person she referred to as daddy. So how awkward was that of her? Whether it was true about him putting bruises on her or not, the cast never believed her. We knew the argument had something to do with Melissa being backstage that night. I was sure surprised Kendra acted that way because she had been Shelly's jump off since he threw Kat in the trash can. We saw more of Melissa, who stayed locked in Shelly's arms. A few months later, the two of them were married. Ooh, child. I got a good laugh out of that. Not because he sent Kendra home, but as soon as Kat found out, she thought she had a chance to slide back in with him. I believe it was the smell of her kitty that turned him off because he never wanted her again. Kat did squeeze her way in closer to Shelly by dating his bisexual stylist. I guess when you're desperate, you'll take anything. Bert's sexuality was so secret. Hell, when he walked, Bert's sexuality was no secret. Hell, when he walked, he switched better than Tyra Banks on a runway. I enjoyed the way he talked just as I enjoy my gay friends today. We on chapter 8, guys. Let's see. Okay, I'm only 32 minutes in. No, it's not Kitty Jones. When she says kitty, she's talking about her kitty cat. And the girl's name happened to be Cat. And maybe she's calling her Cat because of her kitty. Who knows? But all I know is that kitty stank. That's all I know. It stank and funky and it don't smell good and there's something going on with it. Listen, your cat is not supposed to have any odor. None at all. If you have an odor, you have bacteria in it. Go to the doctor. Thank you, Strife Fresh. I appreciate it. Oh, you mean she's beautiful. Oh, okay, my bad. I thought you was calling me beautiful. I was like, thank you, boo. Ow. Okay, got you. Chapter 8, Martin Lawrence Goods. The tour went on. Kendra was replaced and Shelly's relationship with Melissa was good. Now it was time to get my jump-off skills back in the mix. Things were getting boring for me, so I had to get something cranking. I met Martin Lawrence at Radio City Music Hall in New York during his comedy tour. When I first saw Martin, I knew I had to have him. After the show that night, I went back to my hotel room thinking, Martin Lawrence was staring at me while I was sitting in the front row. But hell, he was staring at everybody. The following day, Eddie Murphy and his beautiful wife, Nicole, came up to the Beacon Theater to watch our show. Martin came that night also. Inside the dressing room, all of the girls talked about who would get Martin Lawrence. He was funny, short, and hilarious to watch on stage. I got a chance to meet Eddie backstage before he went into the audience and joined his beautiful wife. But they ended up leaving early because she was... Whew, that scared me. They ended up leaving early because she was pregnant at the time and having labor contractions. After the show, the cast took pictures with Martin, who I thought was even cuter in person than he was on TV. All the girls in the cast were on him like maggots. Everyone wanted a picture with him. When it was my turn to take a picture with Martin, I shook his hands and slid my hotel room number inside of a piece of paper in his hand. He laughed and held on to it. I didn't have a cell phone at the time, so Martin called my hotel room later that night and asked if he could send his driver to pick me up. When I arrived at the Mark Hotel where Martin was staying, I was high off shots of vodka. I had not been with a celebrity since R. Kelly. Martin's hotel suite rocked. It was good, and I was lit from vodka. And he looked better in that moment than he did earlier. We laughed and talked for a while. When I drank liquor, it has a great effect on my bladder, so I was back and forth to the bathroom. Martin had got so comfortable with my conversation with him, he took his shirt off, and his chest looked like a little boy's chest. He sat much sexier with his shirt on than with it off. I had to constantly tell myself, this is Martin Lawrence, a grown man that I came over to jump off, not some little boy. He thought I was a little nervous or shy, so he tried his best to make me feel comfortable. I went to use the bathroom again, but this time when I came out, he already had dimmed the lights. At the moment, I knew he had the same thing on his mind that I had on mine. He knew what time it was, and I'd agreed to go. He knew what time it was when I agreed to go to his hotel room at 1 a.m. After all, I had pursued him the night of the show. He didn't give me his number. I gave him mine. I did the obligatory penis check, taking my hands and rubbing him inside of his pants and getting a good feel and smell too, since I was going there. Now, I know some guys are small if they're not all the way hard, but once it becomes hard, that thing could possibly hang to the floor. Well, after a few minutes of trying and kissing, it didn't seem to grow. He said he was excited because I was so beautiful and that he gets nervous around beautiful women. Okay, I could see a guy being nervous the first time when meeting a new girl, but he doesn't get it that much. At the time, I could see a guy being a little nervous when meeting a new girl when he doesn't get it that much. At the time, he was a big name person, so any woman would still love to be there where I was at. I wanted to go all the way with him that night. He had me hot just kissing on my body. He pulled off my pants with his teeth, tossed his head over to the side, and blew it out of his mouth. And he made this roaring sound when he did it. I'm sorry, I had to do that. Wait. Okay, anyway. I messed up my live me setup. Okay, hold on. Anyway. Hold up. Let me get back right. Okay. I laughed so hard, I called him the Wild Kingdom animal because no one had ever done that. In the middle of our romance, he was still being a comic. I leaned back on the couch, spread my legs while he kissed my thighs. I let him eat this cake and have his ice cream too. After a while, I had to pull him up because he was working my kitty like a workaholic. It felt good, but I started to feel numb. I enjoyed the night, and I thought it was well worth it. He pleased me enough with his tongue, so who can complain? I didn't need penetration. He asked me to stay the night, but I turned down the offer. I had to be at curtain call at 6:15 a.m. and didn't want to look lazy in rehearsal, so I called it a night between us and had his driver drop me back off at the hotel where I was staying at. Martin was so popular at the time, he could have had any girl he wanted to, but he chose me, and I chose to have him as my jump off. The next day came around, and he didn't call all morning, so I called his room and left him a message to call me back, but he never did. It was no big deal, nor were there any hard feelings. I never heard from Martin and his cute banana penis again. Somehow, the next day, word got back to Shelly that I was out seeing Martin at his hotel, and he didn't like that. I believe he was jealous because he had never spanked my booty. I was sure he thought I had given Martin some ass, which I would have if he could get it up. So I was called a groupie by Sherry Garrett. We went word for word with one another. I knew what it was all about. Those funky girls were jealous because Paula, my roommate, had told them I went out with Martin, and it got back to Shelly. For the remainder of the tour, it seemed like Shelly picked on everything I was doing, especially with my performance. I felt harassed because I chose to see Martin Lawrence. On the other hand, I didn't care what he felt. He wasn't my man, and maybe it was time for him to realize that he wasn't the only player on the crew. Then I thought to myself, I wonder if I had ever been his little jump off for a day, if he would have reacted that way towards me. That could have been dangerous. I know I'm good at what I do and what I give. So if I had sex with him, he probably would have put his head through a brick wall. I know how to run in circles when I want to. Now, that just goes to show you, if you don't have sex with directors or executives when they want, look out, because your position is likely to be unstable. I stayed with the tour a few more months, but I decided to leave because Shelly and I were not getting along. I wasn't Kendra, nor was I screwing him, so there was no way he was going to tell me what I could or could not do. So I left the show a few months before the tour ended. Months later, I called up my friend Michael Clark Duncan, who moved to California to pursue his acting career after the tour was over. Big Mike was so cute. He wanted me to live in Los Angeles bad. We talked a lot on the phone, and he finally told me he had a crush on me during the tour. I had tried to keep the conversation friendly, but he just let that out one day that he really was interested in me. I never knew he was digging on me, so I never looked at him in that way. Big Mike was the bodyguard and my fitness trainer. So with all the huffing and puffing and spreading my legs while making ugly faces, I had no idea he was paying attention to me. That was news for my ear, and it caught me by surprise. I was flattered, but he was just way too big. I was curious to know how Shelly got wind of the little episode with Martin when we were on tour, and he said one of the girls told him. Big Mike also reminded me of the moment one day while we were on tour when he carried me to the room to lie down because I had a bad headache, something I had completely forgotten. We had deep conversation about what he liked in a woman. Big Mike had a thing for women with pretty feet, and sometimes he would give me phone sex and have me dripping wet. I had my reasons for not screwing around with Big Mike, though. He was a sweetheart, but he was a friend for life. When I met my girlfriend, Lori, in Los Angeles, he came over to her house. I went to one of Big Mike's auditions with him, and we later went out to eat. Hollywood was good. Everybody wanted somebody. Everybody wanted to be somebody. A few days later, while I was in LA, I went to Dr. Dre's audition for his video, California, starring him and Tupac. California, ooh, knows how to party. By the way, they're closing all the weed shops down out here. I don't know what's going on, honey. They didn't change the licensing laws, so the party is hard to get to, child. There I met a girl named Casey, or it might be Cassie. And for some reason, we hit it off pretty well. She was a rapper, and so was I. I liked her West Coast flavor and sound. We exchanged phone numbers. She told me she was from Chicago and staying in California with her mom for a few months. She invited me to the studio where she was recording that same night. The producer she was working with also worked with Dr. Dre on the NWA album. This guy gave us the ins and outs of the music business. Apparently, the guy was digging Casey along with being a friend to her. I enjoyed being with Casey that night. She was pretty, though, pretty tough, crazy, and fun to be around. She puzzled me because she was a proper rapper with no street knowledge but loved smoking weed. I stayed at the studio while with her and listened in on her session. Then I left for the night and went back to my folks' house I was staying at. Early the next morning, Casey called me and asked me to hang out with her that day. Later that night, we went out to the comedy club called Fat Tuesdays, the happening spot at the time for all of the who's who. That night we went there. So many people were trying to get in. The bodyguard had the door locked down. I spotted Damon Wayans and asked him if he could pretend like we were with him just to get inside. He was so cool. Though he didn't even know us, he let us grab him by the arms and told the security we was with him, and they let us inside with no problems. Now, how cool was that? I thank you, Damon, for getting us in a club, because if it wasn't for you, I would have never met Suge or Tupac. Thank you, Damon Wayans. All right, the next chapter is called Dating Suge Knight. The drama begins, but guess what? We will not be reading that this time around. Oh, no. We will not be reading that this time around. All right, you got to check back with me tomorrow night. I know I said I was going to read between 7 and 7:30 tonight, but I ended up doing a early read because I was here by myself. Like no dad, no dad's wife, no son, no daughter. So I was here by myself, and I decided, hey, It's quiet. Let me start blogging immediately. And that's what I did, okay? All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for that. Guys, please remember that I will be reading tomorrow. If I'm alone at 6:30, I'm going to be reading then. I always let the VIP Teahive know when I'm reading. If you want to be a part of my VIP Teahive chat line, please email me at TOXSDIAMOND@gmail.com, toxot@gmail.com. Make sure you head over to the website, TOXSDIAMOND.com. Join, become a member. It's $1 to start, $5 to become a part of the book club. All you're doing is paying book club dues. It's a real club. You're paying for your club dues. That's what happens when you're in a club. It's $1 to start, $5 a month. You can cancel at any time. Nobody can see your personal information. Everything goes through PayPal, and they're the only ones who have anything. As a matter of fact, I don't even think they can see your personal information, to be honest. And then there's a tier for $5 to start and $10 a month, in which you'll be paying your club dues. You get Tox TV and you get 4 movies a month. Right now we have It Chapter 2 playing and Annabelle down at the bottom. Next week I'm going to be putting up Dave Chappelle Sticks and Stones so that we can get a more clear consensus on what it is he exactly said about Michael Jackson, because there's something in the reports right now that people are very unhappy about Dave Chappelle and some of the things that he said about the Neverland people. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I will holler at you later. See you, YouTube. Teahive. Bye, Live Me, Teahive.